What's up, guys? I am live again from Medellin, Colombia. I think I'm going to do this more often, anyways. I'm trying to get more guests on that. Well, the issue here really is that everyone's kind of busy and dealing with their own problems because of the pandemic. So I got to space things out a little bit more, give everybody more time. So I think I'm going to do these in between bi-weekly. So kind of give you guys like an update on what's going on in crypto, what's going on in the industry from, my perspective and what I've been seeing, and, covering some of the news sources that are coming out. And there's a lot of crazy things going on just this summer alone in crypto. A lot of important things that happened in the past week that I think are, worthy of talking about, that are very noteworthy. So I want to dive into that stuff a bit more and kind of unpack it a little bit. So one of the, biggest news stories that I think we've seen in crypto in a long time, and I think is probably one of the most important changes, is the fact that essentially the Treasury, the OCC, Office of the Comptroller of the Currency, just last week gave all U.S. banks the green light to provide crypto custody. So essentially, they'll be able to hold private keys for their clients. They'll be able to hold digital assets, and they'll be able to offer different products and services to their clients in this fashion. And with all the issues that a lot of crypto businesses have had over the years, trying to get banking services and liquidity, it's been very difficult. It's been hard to grow this space and create innovation when you don't have access to the banking system. Same issues, that the marijuana industry has had for years at this point. Federally, it's just not legal. So we've had a lot of federal lack of regulation, I guess, from the federal government on what to do with crypto. And that has kind of left the banks in the middle. And I think at this point, finally, it looks like, the banks will be able to get more involved. We'll be able to bring in a third party or do it in-house, learn how to integrate with blockchain, how to offer services on blockchain, allow the average person to more easily buy crypto, buy Bitcoin, and hold it. Now, whether or not you want to do that with your bank is totally up to you. I don't think I would do that, but for the average Joe out there, it's a fairly viable option, and it will, it'll push the economy to accept Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies and digital assets as we go along. We've seen a lot of success with that, with companies like BitPay, companies like Square's Cash App, where they've done millions and millions of dollars in revenue through, offering the ability to buy Bitcoin through the Cash App, and then making it very easy to spend that too, without having to go through a big bank. So, the tech companies have kind of been on top of this for a while, and the banks were kind of lagging behind. And this, finally gives the big banks, a chance to compete with the tech companies that have really taken this space to a different level. So I think we're going to see some pretty crazy competition. But anyways, this news story is a huge milestone that will drive banking capital into crypto. Banks are going to need to diversify their asset base. We're going through recession right now, a pretty big economic downturn because of the virus. And, the dollar is losing a lot of value. And I'm going to talk about that in a few minutes as well. So the banking system, all the banks, they're going to need to diversify their asset base, and crypto is one way that they can do that. And I think they realize that. I believe a, former executive for Coinbase is the head of the OCC now. And I think that's part of the reason why this got rolled out. So we will likely see this get pushed, and we'll likely see more developments like this as, the economy begins to struggle, as the banks begin to struggle, and, there's this forced liquidity by the government and the Fed into the US economy. One of the best parts about this is the fact that, crypto is essentially being legitimized faster because of this, even faster than the marijuana industry, which is kind of funny in a lot of ways, because marijuana, I really don't see the issue with it. I mean, it's been proven to have a lot of benefits, and that it's kind of a stupid thing to put in the same classification as even cocaine. So it's kind of funny that crypto is getting the nod before even marijuana is getting a federal nod. But I mean, that's the reality. That's how fast it's moving. And look back at how fast the marijuana industry has been able to move. So that tells you how fast crypto is moving and where it's likely to go at this point. But, this will take time. It'll take time for the banks to, because they got to face this learning curve, and there will be, really stiff competition between all the other tech companies that are ahead of them and all the other banks that want to jump on this as well. And, frankly, most banks don't have the expertise or the knowledge. There's a huge learning curve. They have to either, outsource this and bring in a third party, or they have to in-house develop the right people and the right departments to handle this. Because you're talking about handling someone's private keys, something that takes away from your ability to control your own crypto, control your own money, and you're relying on a bank now that has no knowledge of this industry really, and has not, really dipped its toes into it until now. Giving them the ability to control your Bitcoin or control your crypto, to me, is incredibly risky until they, put out the right standards and they have the right people in place. So this will take time. It's not like we're just going to see it in August and see it in 2020. But you will begin to see it. And over the next year or two, you'll see a lot of services and products slowly begin to roll out, as well as, merchants, stores being able to offer goods and services in crypto, being able to use US Bank, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, whatever you use, to, pay for your coffee or pay for what you buy at Target or Best Buy with Bitcoin or with crypto. There will be those options through merchant services, most likely, on top of, just regular custody services, banking services, investment services. So, the horizon for that is, it's long, and the spectrum is broad, so they can do a lot with that. It really establishes Bitcoin again and other cryptos as a legitimate asset class. Being able to bank with this stuff shows that it is legitimized to a degree by the government, and it's going to force more regulation over, how to classify it for tax purposes, for remittance purposes, for investment purposes. And I think we're going to see a lot more come out, and I think there will be a lot more faith that we'll see more regulatory standards come out over the next couple of years, depending on, Congress doesn't really move fast, let's be honest, but, this will give them more incentive and more confidence to do so if the banks are involved with it. But, the legitimizing of Bitcoin through the banking system is important, because it's going to encourage more people to want to buy Bitcoin. It's going to encourage more people to, look into it, understand it, not see it as, one-time thing, or scam or Ponzi scheme, but as, a legitimate asset class. That narrative is really, really important, and it will also create a lot more on-ramps for Americans as well. So you won't have to just go through Coinbase or go through PayPal's future platform that they're putting out, or through the Cash App. You'll have more options, which will overall be good for the economy, the crypto economy, I guess, in America, which will continue to compete and spread globally. So it's a huge, huge milestone. And I'm really happy to see that, and see that there's, an innovative push beyond just trying to regulate the hell out of it. Other than that, there's a reason why Bitcoin and gold, we might as well talk about both, are doing so well right now, especially over the last few days, where Bitcoin finally broke through 10,000, ran past 11,000. Gold is at all-time highs, about to hit $2,000 an ounce. A huge reason for that is the US dollar index is down over 6% over the last 3 months. The US dollar is really beginning to struggle. And, this is driving a rally in gold and Bitcoin, which, gold is traditionally considered a hedge against the US dollar, and Bitcoin is also getting lumped into that class. So Bitcoin, is also getting classified as something that, is a strong hedge against the US dollar. There's a lot of hedge funds that have come out and said that they believe the same thing. A lot of smart people seem to jump on that bandwagon as well, where Bitcoin is becoming more of a store of value, more of an asset than it is becoming, just money, a utility or a unit of trade. So, we're also going to see a lot more Fed stimulus coming. There's a lot of stuff on the table. Democrats, Republicans, they're all trying to create a new stimulus package that they can put out there. As we continue to struggle with the quarantine, the coronavirus, and the economic downturn, we got elections coming up. There's a nasty trade war that we're still going through with China that's gotten a lot worse. There's going to be a lot of money that they're going to try and pump into the economy, a lot more liquidity. And that will also drive gold and Bitcoin prices a lot higher. It'll drive people into assets with a store value and into speculative assets. I don't think people are going to be quick to jump into the stock market. I think people are going to want to protect their value. So that's not necessarily my prediction or forecast, but it is a strong possibility that I see. And I think a lot of you might agree on that. So it's a good time to, consider loading up on something like gold or Bitcoin if you have a little extra cash, and then just kind of stashing it away, because you don't know what's going to happen with the dollar. I mean, things are getting a lot worse. It's likely we're not going to see a vaccine. The whole reason the stock market has been able to, rally a little bit since March and hold its numbers is because of the hope that there's going to be a vaccine. And I think that the growth in gold and Bitcoin can substantiate the fact that it's unlikely we're going to see a vaccine in 2020, and things have gotten a lot worse. Even outside America, things have gotten a lot worse too. Even where I'm at in Medellin, Colombia, cases are beginning to skyrocket again. That second wave is hitting, like I've told people for quite a while now. And in the US, cities are getting a lot worse. And it's a very persistent virus that isn't just going to disappear. And, a vaccine, even if we have one, the reality is a vaccine isn't going to solve the issue. A virus is going to continue mutating and have multiple strains that are going to be better or worse depending on the environmental impact. And so, even if we had a vaccine, is that really going to solve anything? No, I really doubt that. This is something we're going to have to ride out for quite a while, a few years, maybe even half a decade, who knows? So I think the false hope of a vaccine, I think that's coming to light a little bit. I think that people are starting to realize that as well. And also the US-China trade war, I want to get into that a little bit because it's getting a lot worse. For example, the consulate in Houston was shut down because of allegations of industrial espionage. And China kind of reciprocated by shutting down a US embassy in China as well. The FBI is opening a new Chinese counter intel investigation every 10 hours. China is also committing economic espionage. They've been doing it for years, stealing IP, doing everything possible to, cripple the US economy. As the US-China, relations and trade get a lot worse and continue deteriorating, I think that's also going to continue scaring people. We have the two biggest economies in the world that highly depend on each other. They just can't come to agreement or consensus on, what they both want and compromise on a trade deal. And we have a preliminary trade deal in place since January. But, the reality is that's not going to hold up. The reality is, both economies are struggling a little bit right now because of the virus. because of the tension, because, you have the two biggest economies in the world going at it economically, there will be a lot of repercussions because of that. And I think that's also being reflected in the value of both gold and Bitcoin right now. So other than the fear mongering and telling you why you should buy Bitcoin and gold, and talking about the banks, which I think are incredibly important right now, the other thing I want to mention is it's kind of the other aspect of crypto. It's being able to build on crypto, the platform aspect, being able to build dApps and smart contracts. What's really going to be the blood and life force of the blockchain space, of this industry that is brand new and that's growing exponentially every single year. We're coming to a head with two major platforms that are going through major developments. Cardano with the Shelley launch and Ethereum 2.0. Shelley is, finally launched, and we're going to see how that plays out in August. And we're getting closer and closer to Voltaire and Goguen developments and launches as well, which will lead to all kinds of competition in 2021. And Ethereum 2.0 has finally undergone testing and will finally be able to move Ethereum from proof of work to proof of stake. So this is just gearing up for these platforms to really clash in spectacular fashion, and will stimulate numerous dApps and different forms of innovation. And this is very comparable to Apple versus Microsoft, where you have a company that's pretty much dominating the market, and Ethereum dominating the dApp market, and then you have a competitor, a true competitor, coming in that's being innovative and flipping it on its head and trying to do it in its view the right way. And that's Cardano coming in and fixing these problems. Creating blockchain 3.0, essentially, third generation blockchain technology, whatever you want to call it, being able to solve issues of scalability, interoperability, all the fee issues, the lag and bottleneck issues, being able to create a platform that you can have 1 billion people on, a platform that can sustain $1 trillion market cap one day, something that Charles Hoskinson preaches religiously all the time, and is pushing for Cardano to get to as a milestone, and then in the distant future. And I imagine Ethereum has similar aspirations and ambitions, and they're going to compete heavily, since they control almost the entire dApp market. They are the number one platform to go to if you want to build on blockchain. They're number two but Cardano is creeping up very quickly. And if they are everything they say they're going to be, if Charles Hoskinson says that they are going to be everything that he's hoping that they will be, there will be massive competition between those two. And that will be great for the space, because we haven't really had competition like that in the space. We've had competition in mining. We've had competition among cryptocurrencies. We haven't had competition amongst platforms that can build and sustain dApps and smart contracts for massive amounts of liquidity and people and companies and bandwidth. And it's going to be a very, very exciting time. And I think August is going to really highlight some of those developments, and you're going to see a lot of growth. Maybe even more growth in Ethereum and Cardano individually than you will see in Bitcoin. It's entirely possible. Bitcoin's going to be fueled by the banking system having this green light, being fueled by all the problems, the pandemic, the trade wars, the liquidity being pumped in by the Fed. That's what's going to drive Bitcoin. The dollar index and the dollar collapsing in value. Bitcoin and gold will, go up in value strongly based on that. Whereas Cardano and Ethereum will feel some of that, and will also, gain some of the benefits from, the nasty economy we're in right now. They will largely grow because of the development they're going to see. They're going to largely grow because their platforms are going to grow tremendously. Again, August is going to be very exciting. The rest of 2020 is going to be very exciting in terms of blockchain. I know 2020 has been a crazy year and it hasn't been that fun for most people. And there's a lot of people out there struggling. But if you're looking for an investment opportunity, take this information, dissect it on your own, the same way I'm trying to help dissect it for you. And, consider what the possibilities would be for these to grow. And if you invested in them, what would you be able to make of it? Where are they going? Like, how is this going to shape our world? It's very important to consider that stuff. And I don't think we step back and do that often enough. And I think now is a very good time to do that before a lot of people miss out on the opportunity to create lasting generational wealth. That doesn't happen very often. You don't see a new technology like this come out very often. You don't see developments like this come out very often. The last time something major like this happened that reshaped our planet, reshaped technology, was the internet. Imagine if you got in early on the internet and invested in the right companies, invested in the right projects, and then 20, 30 years later, you'd be amazed by, the generational wealth you'd be able to create for yourself and your family. So those are things to take into consideration with blockchain. It's very young. Bitcoin is just, barely a decade old. Blockchain being used as a platform to build on top of is, barely 6 or 7 years old, and is starting to mature in a lot of ways for the first time. And it took the internet a long time to really mature. It took blockchain some time to mature, and it's starting to, and you don't want to miss out. So definitely dive into it and do your own research and dissect. Look at all this stuff. I'm saying it again, the banking system being able to have this green light is going to trigger tremendous liquidity, tremendous growth in this industry for the first time, because you're going to have a lot of big companies, institutions, funds that are going to feel confident in investing in this stuff. The government will feel more confident putting out favorable regulations. That'll be good for the growth and innovation of the industry. So dissect this, and, really, really dive into it and narrow it down and see from your perspective what you think. But anyways, that is my spiel for today, and hope you guys enjoyed. If you have questions, comments, or want to talk, just put it in the comment section here on YouTube, or, reach out by email, or go to blockhashpodcast.com and submit a form. I'm happy to talk to anyone that wants to talk about it and have discussions, because that's how, we get somewhere in this space. You have discussions. All right, guys, thank you, and see you next time.